Because when you create an application with React Native, it can run on Android devices, iOS devices, and all types of web-enabled devices, laptops, desktops, possibly tablets, or even other internet device as well. As you see the different logos here for browsers, different platforms, and of course Android and iOS. Let's scroll down just a little further and you can see it says create native apps for Android, iOS, and more using React. And that's what we're going to learn how to do. Now let's talk requirements, because at the beginning of every course you have requirements, both what knowledge should you already have and what tools do you need to get started. Let's begin with the tools. So first we'll go to code.visualstudio.com, and if you don't have Visual Studio Code, or VS Code for short, you want to download that for the platform you're on. Here it automatically identifies that I'm on Windows, so it wants me to download for Windows. If you're on Mac or Linux, those are also supported. And after you get VS Code, you will likely also want to get Git. So that is available at git-scm. .com. And here's a download for Windows in the bottom right. Of course, this will also identify what operating system you are on and suggest that download for you. Now, after you have Git, there's one more thing you want to download, and that is Node.js. And you'll find that at nodejs.org. Now you can see you can download Node.js. LTS is the long-term support version, and that's what I recommend. Okay, I have VS Code running. I have closed the welcome screen that you might see after you install VS Code, and I just have an empty folder open. My folder is named React Native Series that you'll see over here. You don't have to create that if you don't want to. That is what I've called my folder. And then you have some menus here at the top. Now, I'm zoomed in some to help the video and help you see what's going on, so you don't see all of the menus at the top. But if you click the three dots, you see the other menus that are available. We're going to open a terminal, so you can choose the terminal menu and then choose New Terminal here. Once you do that, you'll have a terminal window. I already had one open, so I just closed one. But with this terminal window, you'll notice a couple of things. One, you can see...
उघडन येऊ का नाही तो बाहेर होता इतकं
where my folder is.
द्वाराने बाहेर सोडलं
Is here on Windows. I'm in Documents, Tutorials, and then the React Native Series folder that I created. But also at the top, you see what type of terminal. I'm running. So if I click this where it says Bash, I believe I could here maybe the arrow to the right. There we go. I can change the type of that comes with Windows, but Bash comes with Git, and that's what I want to use, not just open another new one. But I'm using the Bash terminal, and since you installed Git, you should also have that option available for your VS Code. So you'll be using the same terminal as I do throughout this series. Now let's also check what versions we installed, and we can do that, say, with Node.js that we installed by typing node-b. And you can see it gives me the version that I just installed. Now, if you're here, you don't have to create that if you don't want to. That is what I've called my folder. And then you have some menus here at the top. Now, I'm zoomed in some to help the video and help you see what's going on, so you don't see all of the menus at the top. But if you click the three dots, you see the other menus that are available. We're going to...
नाही
We're going to open a terminal, so you can choose the terminal menu and then choose New Terminal here. Once you do that, you'll have a
हा
terminal window. I already had one open, so I just...
पेपरवाला आला होता त्याला पैसे द्यायचे होते पण मग तिकडे द्यायचे होते म्हटलं तर इकडे नाही दिले मग
closed one. But with this terminal window, you'll notice a couple of things. One, you can see where my folder is here on Windows. I'm in Documents, Tutorials, and then the React Native Series folder. But also at the top, you'll see what... what type of terminal I'm running. So if I click this where it says bash, I believe I could, here, maybe the arrow to the right. There we go. I could change the type of terminal that I have. Here's power. PowerShell that comes with Windows, but bash comes with Git, and that's what I want to use, not just open another new one. But I'm using the bash terminal, and since you or maybe the arrow to the right, there we go. I could change the type of terminal that I have. Here's PowerShell folder that I created, but also at the top, you'll see what type of terminal I'm running. Folder that I created, but also at the top, you'll see what type of terminal I'm running. So if I click this where it says bash, I believe I could, here, maybe the arrow to the right. There we go. I could change the type of terminal that I have. Here's PowerShell that comes with Windows, but bash comes with Git. And that's what I want to use, not just open another new one. But I'm using the bash terminal, and since you installed Git, you should also have that option available for your VS Code. So you'll be using the same terminal as I do throughout this series. Now let's also check what versions we installed. And we can do that, say, with Node.js that we installed by typing node-v. And you can see it gives
युजवेंद्र काम काय तिचं पाहतो आणि मम्मीला घेऊन येतो 3 वाजता. हां, 3 वाजता जेवण करू.
हम्म?
Gives me the version that I just installed. Now, if you're watching this video months after I've created it, you may have a newer version, and that's okay as well. Now, let's do the same with Git. I'll just type git for Git -v, and we'll see what version of Git I have installed. So those are the versions that I currently have, and if you have newer versions than that installed, that's okay too. And since we've installed Node, we also have npm, so we can check the version of that, as we will also use it in this series. And there's my version of npm. Now, before we're finished talking about tools, I want to mention a couple of optional VS Code extensions you can add. Now, I'm not going to focus on those, but since you're learning React Native, you can go ahead and add them if you want to. So let's search for React Native. And then, of course, it'll take just a little bit of time, and we should get what extensions are available. Here is the React Native tools. If you want to install that, that would be a good one to use.
नकली काशी आहे. कोण गे
आपण आणली विकत.
कुठं
हे जी म्हणून ना युजवेंद्र तर मला थायलंड काहीतरी आणा म्हणे. काय तेव्हा म्हणतात थायलंड आणली ती द्यायची त्याला हे करा म्हणजे.
पण समजून येते आपण नकली आहे.
पण मग नक्कीच आपण कुठं असलं म्हणा त्याला तर सांगायचं 43 रुपयाची म्हणून.
नको
आपण तरी त्याला खरं थोडं असं म्हणणार नाही ना आता ते 30 रुपयाचे 40 रुपयाचे
कलर निघून जाईनचा.
गेला तात्पुरतं दाखवायला आम्ही 4-8 दिवसात त्याला फक्त 40 रुपये वापरले.
तिथं आपल्याला एक पण अंगठी नाही दिसली. हा नाही दिसली.
Another one that we're going to have is called Expo Tools. And Expo is a framework that we're going to introduce here in just a moment. So you could add the Expo tools as well. You might want both of these extensions. Again, I'm not going to focus on them, but as you're learning React Native and continue on your journey, they will probably be helpful for you. And now continuing with requirements, let's just talk about what knowledge you should already have. I'm not going to say knowing React is a prerequisite, although it will help you if you're learning React Native. If you already know React, it will be easier to understand some things. But the things that I do require are what are called the pillars of the web: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, I have free courses for all three of those topics on my YouTube channel, so you can find those and watch those videos as the prerequisites for this class. Just as when you take a college course or some other course, sometimes there is a class you should have taken before. These three items will help you as you now learn React Native. And we're back on the React Native homepage. Let's click the Get Started button. And here we have Get Started with React Native. But one thing they say here that I want to really highlight is we believe that the best way to experience React Native is through a framework, a toolbox with all the necessary APIs to let you build production-ready apps. And so with that said, we're going to use a React Native framework called Expo, as they mention here. And Expo is a framework that will give us a lot of extra tools to help build our React Native apps that will work on all platforms. And now we're on the Expo page, and this is at expo.dev. From here, we want to go to the docs link. So let's go to the docs, and from there, we want to click Create a Project. Now you can see on the Create a Project page, they give us some code that we can copy, and we'll paste it into our terminal in VS Code to help create our Expo application with React Native. Back in VS Code, I'm going to open a terminal window by pressing Control and the backtick, and now now that I've copied that code from the Expo website, I'm going to paste it here by right-clicking. And of course, I'm on Windows, so if you're on Mac or Linux, that could be just a little different. But now that I've pasted that command in here, it says npx create Expo app at latest. So it's going to install the latest version for Expo. Let's go ahead and press enter. It will start to ask us some questions. And it says, what do we want? want to name the app? Well, I'm going to suggest that you name this Welcome, as it's just an example here in the Welcome Get Started video.
धुतलं नाही वाटतं पप्पा. नाही
अरे मी धुतलं ते.
नाही
धुतलं म्हणतो तर.
तर लागतंय.
मी तेवढं काढून टाकतो आता.
Video. You can name it Get Started or go with my app if you want to. I'll just say Welcome. What I'm going to call it is Lesson 1 because I'm creating a series of tutorials here. So Lesson 01, and press enter, and now it starts creating everything that we need for this project. Now, one thing I'm commonly asked about a tutorial series, and especially a few months after it's been created, or a year, or even 2 years later, is this tutorial still valid? Because tech does change. And I'll say, yes, this tutorial is still valid if you install the same dependencies that I have in my package.json file. And you'll soon see a package.json file in this Lesson 01 folder when this finishes installing. Now, what I'm going to suggest, if you're watching this video a year after I've created it, or 2 years after I've created it, is you're probably going to want to get my code from GitHub, and there you're going to copy that package.json, and then you'll type npm install to get the exact same versions that I use in this tutorial, and that will let you have the same experience that I've had. So for now, you can see we have a message, everything is installed, and it says we want to cd, that is change directory, and go into lesson 01. So let's do that down here, cd lesson 01. If you
नाही. नाही.
named yours welcome, it would be cd welcome. And that is going to take us into that lesson 01 folder that I have. So now you can see I'm in documents, tutorials, React Native series. And as far as the terminal is concerned, I am in the lesson 01 folder. Now up here, we'll have to open it to see what's inside. I was talking about a package.json file, and now you see this. So we typed install latest. If I scroll back up here, we might still be able to see that wherever. No, there's a lot of messages, but
नाही खायचं नाव.
we had that pasted command at our terminal, and it said npx create expo app at latest. Well, behind latest are a lot of different packages this create expo app installed. So I'm going to close this, and we can see everything that was installed under dependencies in my package.json file. So now that I scroll down, you can see all of these dependencies it added for our application. Here's React. Here's a lot of things to do with Expo. We also have some React navigation for native up here, React Native things down here. So a lot of things were installed. Now, these are the versions that I currently have as I create this tutorial. If you're watching the video a year or 2 years from now, there's probably newer versions of these things available, which you will get if you install at latest, like we just did here in this video. But if you want to have these exact same versions that I do for the tutorial and have the exact same experience that I show, what you'll want to do after you go ahead and copy my package.json from GitHub, you could just highlight all the code and paste it in here if you want to, but you want to have this package.json file. And after that, I will just open up the terminal window again, and I can type npm install, and it will install all the versions that are in my package.json file. And that's what it's doing now. But it quickly just looked over everything and said I was already up to date. And so it left it alone. If you haven't installed anything yet, it would take just as long as that first installation. Back on the Expo website, we were on the create a project page. Now let's go to the setup your environment yet. It would take just as long as that first installation. Back on the Expo website, we were on the create a project page. Now let's go to the setup your environment page. And it asks you a few questions. It says, where would you like to develop? And you can choose Android device. You can choose iOS device. You could also choose Android emulator or iOS simulator. And we'll look at each one of these. So the Android device itself, once we choose that, it says, hey, use Expo Go. That is the Expo application that we'll use to test out an application with. But it doesn't mean we're only going to build for Android. And then it gives us a QR code that you can scan that will take you to the Expo app. The Google Play Store or the Apple Store would have that to download, for example. So if I scroll back up here and I choose iOS device, then it still says Expo Go, and it says set up an iOS device with Expo Go. Before, I believe it said set up an Android device. Yep, set up an Android device. So either one of those. Now, if we said we had an Android emulator, that means you probably want to install Android Studio. Now, that may still be what you want to do. You may want to check it out in several different environments. And running Android Studio, where you would traditionally write an Android application, lets you use the Android Studio emulator. So that can be set up on Mac OS and Windows. If we chose iOS simulator,
हा हा, पाठवतो.